So many news in the AI race this week, so we are going to try to recap what happened to Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, Anthropic this week, and what are the key topics that you have to know to be informed for your investing in this market. So let's get started. As usual, we are going to actually look at the best experts that we are looking on X to actually guide us into this AI race and all these different news. So first, let's get started with actually a multiple post about a topic which is very interesting, which is the lead for NVIDIA and the use of custom silicons by most of the AI actors. So what we have seen very recently is that more and more players in the AI race are trying to build their own AI chips because they want to actually get some pressure off from the reliance on NVIDIA. And what we are seeing is that customers like Google or Amazon, for example, are trying to deleverage their reliance from NVIDIA. So Google, everybody knows that Google has its own TPUs. It has used TPUs for a very long time. The main benefit from TPUs is actually the cost because they are so specialized into the type of operations that Google, basically with tensors, are doing for AI. Then the cost to use TPUs and to actually do inference with TPUs is much lower, and especially for multimodal models. That's why today, like, Google has been able to actually scale all its own Gemini models to all the different products, and today this is actually a great competitive advantage for Google. And in the very same way, so what we are seeing is that Amazon is also trying to basically leverage and ramp up their own Trainium chips. So with the Trainium 2 that they are actually building data centers for Anthropic, and we are going to see that a little bit later. So today we are going to look at the first tweet from Chris Patel saying that actually we should go long Google and Amazon because like what we are seeing is that Google and Amazon are actually putting more and more efforts to try to develop their own chips and to produce them and integrate them. And so why I think as well that is going to be a winning strategies is because these chips are going to be specialized and dedicated for all the different workloads that Google and Amazon will going to have. But it also means that it's going to be difficult for Amazon and for Google to actually make all the companies use these chips because they are going to be so specialized into the different workloads. But we have seen like great progress for Google in terms of TPUs. We have seen with all the different deals that they had with like Meta, with OpenAI, with Oracle, for example. The use of TPUs is becoming much and more attractive for a lot of different players, especially due to the cost and the efficiency that it brings to all these different AI workloads. And this is very similar of what we are going to see with Amazon and with their Trainium chips that they are using for Anthropic. Why? Because even though the chip by itself is actually not as performant as NVIDIA chips, because they are so actually fit to what Anthropic is actually using with their training in terms of model, then it's going to actually be so efficient for Anthropic to use this Trainium chip that they are not going to need NVIDIA chips for that, and the performance and the efficiency is going to be on par with using NVIDIA chips for Anthropic. And what we are going to see is that actually most of the players in terms of AI, they are going to try to use these custom AI chips. And on top of that, so this week, so we have seen like another article confirming this whole thesis from Semi-Analysis, which explain that AWS growth is going to reaccelerate, especially thanks to their partnership with Anthropic, because they are building like a data center of more than 1 gigawatt for Anthropic using all their Trainium 2 chips, specially dedicated for Anthropic training models. And basically, like what we are seeing and what Semi-Analysis is confirming is that all the big players are going to use their own custom chip because this is how they're going to be able to differentiate and be more efficient by being more specialized toward their own workloads and not using GPUs which are much more generalized in terms of performance. So I think this is very interesting because like there is this balance between trying to buy NVIDIAs, because a lot of customers of AWS, a lot of customers from Google Cloud, they need these NVIDIA GPUs, but also like on the other side, like Google and Amazon, they need to develop their own custom AI chips. They need to leverage them because they are much more efficient for their own workloads and they're all different products. Well, all of this is definitely not great news for NVIDIA. And another not great news for NVIDIA is actually the ban of NVIDIA chips in China. And another tweet, so this week that we have seen, we're going to put just right here is basically a tweet from Just Dario, just re-mentioning what we have said like for weeks now, is that China is going to cut definitely the reliance on NVIDIA chips, because this is very strategic for them to do so. And what we are seeing is that China seeks to triple the output of AI chip in boost to DeepSeek ambitions. And basically, like, they want to cut off NVIDIA and they want to push their Cambricon chips, they want to push their Huawei chips. And definitely, and what they say is that the only rational play for China today is basically to try to push up their own AI chips. And that's why I think that this is going to be actually a big headwind for NVIDIA. And I think that this is going to shake off the market, because people, they don't realize how powerful like this is going to be if China really puts a real strict ban on the AI, on the NVIDIA chip. In other news in this crazy AI world, so we have seen last week, so basically in the dinner with the president from Mark Zuckerberg, like really shocking numbers like thrown around in terms of capex spend and investment in the United States. So we've heard, like, for example, Mark Zuckerberg from Meta saying that they are going to invest in the US $600 billion until 2029. And this is actually quite shocking, because today, like, the capex amount for this year guided by Meta is around $70 billion. So this means that they're going to have to increase their capex significantly to actually invest so much into AI capex in the US. Actually, the reality of that is maybe this number is just fake. It was just invented like on the spot, but it shows you that there is some kind of euphoria around this AI capex, and this is actually not good news for you investors, because this shows that a lot of numbers are not very realistic. Another example of that is we have seen like this news about the letter to investors from OpenAI saying that they are going to cash burn billions and billions of dollars, so up to $125 billion in 2028. And they're going to try to turn profitability only after 2028, so around 2029 or 2030. So it means that there is actually a real possibility that investors, they might not want to actually go that far, because like the cash burn from OpenAI is actually very, very high today, and this is not very sustainable in the long term. So Sam Altman has always been like the type of trying to get as much money as possible from investors to try to build OpenAI and to build all these AI data centers. But definitely what we are seeing today, that a lot of AI businesses are definitely not profitable. And when you look at the numbers, especially from OpenAI, it doesn't really make sense. They are kind of like projecting a lot of growth in terms of revenues from a lot of different angles. But the reality is that the competition is actually pretty tough for OpenAI today. And the cash burn is not actually matching like the reality of their projected revenue. So I think this is going to be very tough. And there is actually a real possibility that OpenAI will actually go bankrupt before 2030 if they continue spending like that. And now a quick update on Google. So Google actually, and we are going to see that from this tweet from Mark Kretschmann, and saying that actually this is a reality, that Google is becoming the clear leader in multimodal AI. Other labs like OpenAI will have a hard time catching up, and Google has the hardware with the TPU that we've just discussed and the data from basically YouTube today. And basically he doesn't see anyone keeping up with Google in the near future. So indeed, like in terms of development of models from Google, I think this is incredible. And the choice that they have made with Gemini to actually start from the get-go to actually have a multimodal models is actually showing today that they are one of the best AI labs, and they have definitely nailed it, especially with Nano Bananas, especially with VO3. And I think that their lead is going to continue to actually increase, because today they have the data to train, they have the AI lab to actually make it incredible, and they have the TPUs to actually be able to train on videos, to train on audio, and that is going to be very difficult for OpenAI. And as we've seen, that the cash burn from OpenAI is not going to be infinite, and it's going to limit actually their ability to develop this type of model. So this shows that the lead that Google has today, especially in terms of multimodal, so meaning images and videos, and audio, for example. And I think that this is going to continue. We are going to see that into all the different products, so like Google Photos, Notebook LM, for example, or even like Google Meet or Google Workspace. And I think that this is going to continue, and this is going to permeate into all their different products. Another news this week that we've seen with Anthropic, and we're going to see the very quick tweet that mentioned that. So basically, Anthropic settled copyright infringement lawsuit for 1.5 billion with some creator and with some author of books. And basically this shows that this actually put a precedent on this type of issues and this type of lawsuits and settlement. And this means that OpenAI is going to also have to settle in the same way or form, because we all know that OpenAI infringe a lot on different platforms like YouTube, for example, or most famously from Ghibli. And definitely I think that is going to be a huge threat for OpenAI and for companies who actually train on data that they didn't own at all. And we are going to see more and more actual reluctance of a lot of different creators, a lot of different media, basically companies to actually share their data, especially free to all these companies. And we are going to see more and more lawsuits, because like OpenAI and Anthropic, they basically build their models on data that they didn't own. For Google, it's a bit more, I would say, global, because they own a lot of data. So we are going to see that. And especially if it comes to like that OpenAI trained their model on YouTube, I think is going to be a huge lawsuit and a huge actually threat for OpenAI in the coming years. A lot of people dismiss that, but I think that given the valuation today of OpenAI that we are seeing on the private market, this is definitely something that people have to consider, because the $500 billion valuation can disappear very quickly. And the last tweet this week to actually cap off this recap from all the news for the AI world and this AI race. So this is actually a quick tweet that actually recapped the ranking of the Max 7. And this is very interesting because like from this tweet from Suspended Cap, so what we are seeing is that number 1 is actually Google, number 2 could be Amazon, number 3 NVidia, especially as it says like under pretty decent competitive threat, or at least the narrative has built over the last few weeks. This is what we actually discussed with the custom AI chips. Actually, Microsoft today is actually quite a mess, especially with their partnership with OpenAI. They haven't been able to develop their own AI models, so it's kind of difficult, I think, for Microsoft. I think very similar also for Meta. So their super intelligence team didn't really actually put the result that they actually expected. So this is kind of disappointing in a sense. And even though that the Meta price the price for the Meta stock is actually pretty high today, the achievement of the Meta team is actually today very underwhelming. And actually, like quite a surprising leader or quite surprising winner today is actually Apple, because they haven't spent all this capex like all the others, but they might actually reach a deal with Gemini to actually power the next series. And if they actually pull this off, this will actually be a big win for Apple, because they will definitely improve their Apple Intelligence without spending like hundreds of billions of dollars in terms of capex. So definitely this is very interesting, because as you can see, the narrative is changing all the time in this AI race, and the leaders of today may not be the winners tomorrow. So definitely like stay tuned. If you're interested in other analysis like this one, please check my other videos. Please tell me what you think about the AI race and all these Max 7 players, Anthropic, OpenAI, and please subscribe, and I see you in another video. Bye.